This is page 205. This video will actually be pages 205 and 206. And we're going to introduce the idea of a benchmark fraction. These are basically a lot of, I said benchmark fraction, I meant benchmark percent. These are basically a lot of percents that we want to memorize. A benchmark is one you want to memorize. So if you got 1 out of 10 on a quiz, that would be 10%. If you got 1 out of 4, that would be 25%. Fourth of a dollar is 25%. On the previous page, we learned that 1/3 is 33%. It's 33 1/3. It gets rounded all the time. You'll even hear math teachers say 1/3 is 33%. It's 33 1/3, or 33.3 repeating. 1/2 is 50%. 2/3 is the same as 1/3 except for doubled, so it's 66 2/3%. 3/4 is 75. There's others here too, and they're just ones that you want to memorize. You got to know all your tenths. This one right here would be 9/10. 9/10 would be 90%. Just got to memorize those. And then we can use those to answer questions. For example, in example 1, find an equivalent percent for 3/10. Well, what you need to do is you know right here that 1/10 is 10%, and to get from 1/10 to 3/10, you'd multiply by 3. If you multiply 1 times 3, you get 3/10, so you multiply 10% times 3 and you get 30%. So just memorize stuff like that. 10%, memorize 3/10 is 30%. Okay. Question B, this is how to estimate. Question B says 76% of the students at a middle school bring their own lunch. It says about what fraction? I want you to notice that the question reads about what fraction. So it doesn't say what exactly is the fraction, it says about. And then you notice that 76% is very close to 75%. And 75% is 3/4. So we don't say exactly 3/4 of the students bring their own lunch, we say about. So here's what happened there. 76 is close to the benchmark of 75, and 75 is one that we memorize as 3/4, so we say about 3/4 of the students bring their own lunch. Let's go ahead and apply that. Let's go ahead and turn the page to page 206. We're going to start at the your turn at the top of the page. It says use a benchmark fraction to find an equivalent percent for each fraction. 9/10 is, well, if 1/10 is 10%, 9/10 would be 90%. And 2/5, and that one's not on the benchmark, but we did memorize in module, I think it was module 3. We tried to memorize some of these. I want to point out to you how you can get from 2/5 to a percent. What we do here is we want to convert that to tenths by doubling it. So if you multiply these by 2, what do you get? You get 4/10, and 4 out of 10 would be 40%. So memorize, if you can, your fifths. 1/5 would be 20%, 2/5 would be 40%, 3/5 would be 60%. In fact, you could memorize these right over here. This is not a bad idea. You should write these down right here. 1/5 is 20%, 2/5 is 40%, and that's a little messy, and I'm sorry because I don't have much space. 3/5 is 60%. You can see a pattern. 4/5 is obviously 80%. A fifth is just 20%, so it just increases by 20% each time. All right, question 4 reads, 64% of the animals at an animal shelter are dogs. About what fraction of the animals at the animal shelter are dogs? So what we're going to do is we're going to go look for 64% on our benchmarks. So I'm going to go ahead and clear all this. I'm going to go back to my benchmarks, and 64% is very close to, it'd be right around here, it'd be very close to 66%. 64% would be very close to 66%. 66 2/3 is the fraction 2/3. So I'm going to use that information, I kind of just showed you, use that information to answer question 4. I'm going to write it this way. 64% is very close to 66 2/3%, which is equal to 2/3 of the animals are dogs. And it's not 2/3 though, it's about, which means that about 2/3 of the animals are dogs. Cool. Let's move on. Let's check out the guided practice. Number 1 reads, shade the grid to represent the ratio 9/25, then find a percent equivalent to the given ratio. In case you forgot what percent means out of 100. 25 goes into 100 4 times, which means we need to multiply by 4. If you multiply a denominator by 4, you have to multiply its numerator by 4. So 9 and 25 is the same as 9 and 25 each times 4, which is 36. 36 out of 100 is 36%. And we need to shade 36. That could just be 3 rows and then 6 squares. 36 out of 100 is 36%. Check out number 2. This is what I was just asking you to memorize a few minutes ago. This one should be super easy. Use the bar model to find the missing percent. 1/5 out of 100 is, well, 1/5 of 100 is 20. So 1/5 of 100% is 20%. Now it doesn't ask you to do the rest of them, but this would be a great place to review your fifths. If 1/5 is 20, 2/5 is 40%, and 3/5 would be 60%. You don't have to do this because the question didn't ask you to, but boy, it's a great opportunity to review your fifths. Alright, so questions 3 through 5 ask you to identify a benchmark that you could use to find an equivalent percent for each ratio, then find the equivalent percent. So a lot of kids just can get 6/10. 6/10 on a quiz would be 60%. What benchmark you're using is 1/10. 1/10 would help you because 1/10 is equal to 10%. So therefore 6/10 is equal to 60%. That's the way they want you to do this. 2/4 is equal to, well, the benchmark you would use is 1/4. If 1/4 is 25%, 2/4 would be 50%. And 4/5, the benchmark that you would use to get 4/5 is 1/5. 1/5 is equal to 20%. So 4/5 would be 20% times 4, which is 80%. The important part about these is the answer you got on the line, and then they just want you to kind of explain the thinking that you used to get there. Alright, let's check out numbers 6 and 7. Number 6 reads, 41% of the students at an art college want to be graphic designers. About what fraction of the students want to be graphic designers? So off to the side here, I say that 41% is very, very close to 40%. And 40% is the same as 2/5. So what I say is about 2/5 of the students want to be graphic designers. Alright, number 7 says, how do you write a ratio as a percent? Well, we want to use our definition here of what percent means. Since percent means out of 100, we need to write the ratio as a fraction with a denominator of 100. That's our goal. And I can even show your work. I can show you the work on this. If they give you a ratio of like 1 to 5, what we need to do is need a denominator of 100, so we multiply by 20, and we get a denominator of 100, and then whatever our numerator is the percent. 20/100 is 20%. So there's an example of what I just tried to say. My words are pretty clear, but if it doesn't make sense to you, the example might help you. Okay, great job. You're done with pages 205, 206.